Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 176 of the podcast. And in this episode of the podcast, I'm talking about the New England Patriots trading former Defensive Player of the Year Stephon Gilmore to the Carolina Panthers. That's right, in shocking fashion, former Defensive Player of the Year Stephon Gilmore has been traded from the New England Patriots to the Carolina Panthers for a 6th-round draft pick. When this first started to escalate in the offseason, we all thought that the Patriots and Gilmore were going to come to some kind of resolution because they were spending so much money. They were paying Jonnu Smith, they were paying Hunter Henry, they were paying Nelson Aguilar, so we thought that the Patriots were going to try to compete this season instead of trying to rebuild. I mean, really the only reason it looked like the Patriots would move on from Stephon Gilmore if they were trying to rebuild their organization, and this offseason that was not the case. So I'm kind of shocked that they are moving on from Stephon Gilmore after spending all that money. But before we look at why he's gone, let's go back and look at Gilmore's roller coaster tenure with the Patriots. In 2017, Gilmore left the Buffalo Bills and signed with the Patriots to a 5-year, $65 million deal, 31 of which was guaranteed, and everyone was stunned that the Pats were paying for that much for a corner. They did not bring back Darrelle Revis after winning a Super Bowl, and would not end up paying Super Bowl hero Malcolm Butler. His first 2 seasons with the Patriots were fine, and he won a Super Bowl, but Gilmore's best year by far was 2019 when he was the best cornerback in the NFL. He had 6 interceptions and wound up winning Defensive Player of the Year. The trouble for Gilmore and the Patriots really started last year when Gilmore wanted a contract worthy of his status, and the Patriots agreed to bump up his contract to $15.5 million that season. Gilmore was due $7 million from the Patriots this year, and he wanted more money, and then supposedly due to the injury, he was put on the PUP list. A lot of people are questioning Stephon Gilmore's health. Was he really unable to play the first 4 games of this season, or was he holding out for a lot more money? I don't think we'll ever really know the true answer to that question. It meets somewhere in the middle. He's probably not fully healthy, but he's probably healthy enough to miss a few weeks and then come back. I think we can all agree that this was more about the money than it was about the injury for Stephon Gilmore. And speaking as a Patriots fan, this is the worst possible timing to this news. The Patriots are 1-3 and have only scored 20 points once so far this season. One would think they could use as much great defenders as possible because they cannot win a shootout against Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs or Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. They feel like a team that needs to hold opponents below 30 points to win, and Gilmore would have gone a far way to make that possible. And then you get to the part of it where they only got a 6th-round pick for a guy who won Defensive Player of the Year 2 years ago. I understand what people are saying. His value right now is not very good because he's not playing, and I understand all of that. But what about at the beginning of last season when you bumped up his contract? If you had no ideas or wants to keep Stephon Gilmore long-term, then you should have traded him immediately. They should have traded him at the deadline last year. They probably could have gotten more for him back then too. This was a big mismanagement of a guy you clearly didn't want to keep long-term. This has kind of been a problem for the Patriots lately. They're keeping these guys they don't want to keep long-term way too much longer. Again, I can go back to Tom Brady. If you didn't want to keep Tom Brady beyond the age of 43 or whatever, then you should have moved on from him and traded him back when there was value. It's important to get something good for Tom Brady, and I think the worst of them all was the Jimmy Garoppolo trade. That trade looks worse and worse by the day. Jimmy Garoppolo led the 49ers to a Super Bowl, and all you got back was a 2nd-round pick. That is pure madness. Honestly, how I think this should have been managed, because I don't think the Patriots are a very good team right now, I think what should have happened is Stephon Gilmore should have come back, and if the Patriots were to have a winning record by the trade deadline, they should have kept him, him, and if they have a losing record, I think Stephon Gilmore would have been a way better trade attraction for a team trying to compete. I think a team would have bit the bullet at the trade deadline and made a big move for Stephon Gilmore. That is my opinion on the matter. You could have gotten something way better for him, or you could have held on to him and tried to compete this season. And don't give me that money is a major factor here. The Patriots are paying a ton of guys I wouldn't pay ahead of Stephon Gilmore. Like, look at Devin McCourty. Devin McCourty is making a decent bank number here for the Patriots. He's an older type player, so don't give me I won't pay Stephon Gilmore because he's 31 years old. Well, Devin McCourty is older. Then you have guys like Kyle Van Noy, who's making about $4 million this year. Don't tell me the Patriots are being smart with their money when it comes to older players. I hear the 31-year-old argument, and I think it's pure garbage. Also, I just don't like how this ended. I think this was one of the smartest contracts that Bill Belichick gave out as general manager of the Patriots. Stephon Gilmore was Defensive Player of the Year. He was a catalyst of a Super Bowl winning team. He was one of the best cornerbacks in franchise history. I'm sorry. I'm sick of things not ending well. Sometimes you just want to see a player you like have a good ending with his tenure with the team. This feels bad, and I understand that a lot of this is Stephon Gilmore's fault, but I'm putting a lot of the blame on the Patriots. Clearly, things do not end well with their best players. It didn't end well with Randy Moss and the Patriots. It didn't end well with Wes Welker and the Patriots. It didn't end well with Tom Brady and the Patriots. It didn't end well with Rob Gronkowski and the Patriots. When are we going to get a good ending to a career of a New England Patriot? We have not gotten that good ending for any of these players that were part of a dynasty. Yeah, it ended well for Julian Edelman. It seems like it's going to end well for Devin McCourty, but I want to see my favorite Patriots end their tenure with the Patriots on good terms, and that is not happening, and it's not happening at an alarming rate. And I know this has absolutely nothing to do with it, but it's kind of maddening to know that Stephon Gilmore, a guy who actually contributed to a Super Bowl winning team, is gone, and Brandon Bolden seemingly has a lifetime career contract with the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick is picking favorites, and if you're not his favorite, things are ending bad with the Patriots and Bill. And I love this argument that Bill Belichick is great for moving on from players a year too early instead of a year too late. Yes, there have been recent examples where he traded a guy at the exact right moment. Remember, he traded Brandon Cooks. That was an excellent trade, but this was not. You got a 6th-round draft pick for a guy who 2 years ago was Defensive Player of the Year. You should have held on to him to see if he was going to get any value by the trade deadline, and maybe you could actually help this team out. Who cares about a 6th-round draft pick? You should have gotten like an offensive lineman or something of importance to this year's Patriots team if you weren't going to hold on to Stephon Gilmore. Let him prove that he can play before you trade him. And my biggest argument why you don't move on from Stephon Gilmore is because for Gilmore, it is all about the money. Stephon Gilmore is going to come back in week 6 of the season, week 7 of the season, and guess what? He's going to play like Stephon Gilmore of the past because he is in a contract year. This is a guy who is motivated to get one more big, huge payday from the National Football League, and the Patriots really could have used a guy like that. It doesn't matter his feelings towards the team. He only cares about his feelings towards his wallet right now. This gets me to this point, which I think a lot of people agree with me on. I think Bill Belichick is by far the best football coach of all time, but he is far from the best GM. The wildest thing about this is it is reportedly Gilmore was asked to restructure his contract to help bring back former Patriot Jamie Collins. Asking Gilmore to restructure after you spent $190 million guaranteed on free agents this offseason is maddening. I want Bill as a coach. I am getting tired of him as a general manager. Who cares about Jamie Collins? Yes, he comes back to the Patriots and he plays like his old self, but you know who's valuable if he plays like his old self? Stephon Gilmore is way more valuable to this Patriots team winning this year than Jamie Collins could ever imagine. The fact that you wanted Stephon Gilmore to make some kind of concession for Jamie Collins, I would understand it if it was some great player and you went went to Gilmore and you were like, if we get this guy, we can win a Super Bowl. But no, the name you want Stephon Gilmore to restructure his deal over is Jamie Flippin' Collins. Who cares about Jamie Collins? Who cares about these guys on their third or fourth stints with the team? I don't care about Collins. I don't care about Kyle Van Noy. I would have rather a guy like Stephon Gilmore on the New England Patriots because I know he's still a good player when he plays. I think the most painful thing of all of this for the Patriots and Bill is Stephon Gilmore is not getting any more money from the Panthers. In the past, a veteran would have done anything to remain a member of the New England Patriots. Guys would take pay cuts like Danny Amendola, but that cachet is no more. It's kind of gone with Brady to the Bucs. He's gotten wide receiver Mike Evans to take a pay cut because Mike Evans wants to be part of a Super Bowl winning team. Do I think Stephon Gilmore would restructure his deal if the Patriots were Super Bowl contenders? Absolutely. Nobody is talking about that aspect. Why would Stephon Gilmore restructure his deal for a team that is 1-3 and is probably going nowhere in the postseason? This team is not on the cusp of a Super Bowl, so Stephon Gilmore doesn't want to be a part of it. He'd rather be part of a team like the Panthers with a winning record and a bright future. Right now, the Patriots' future is in question, and Gilmore doesn't want to be a part of that. And Gilmore is not without blame. Maybe he was asking for one last huge payday, but I still believe that if the Patriots team was going to compete with a team like the Buffalo Bills, then they were going to need Stephon Gilmore this season. I think if you look back at Bill's past, he is always having contract disputes with cornerbacks. He's had contract disputes with Ty Law, Asante Samuel, Malcolm Butler, and now Stephon Gilmore, and the fans have always sided with Bill, and in most cases, he moved on from those players and went on to win a Super Bowl. I don't see that being the case with Gilmore. The days of moving on from good players and still winning are seemingly over. You can't move on from a Richard Seymour and not feel the impact of it. The fans are tired of it, and the reason you were able to get away with it is because you had Tom Brady as your quarterback and you were guaranteed 12 to 13 wins a season, and you were almost guaranteed a trip to the AFC Championship game in the Super Bowl. Those days are gone, and that's what I think is the craziest thing about this. I feel like Bill is not evolving as his team is. He is still acting like he is in the glory days where he can tell a guy like Stephon Gilmore, listen, I need you to restructure your deal so I can bring in more guys with the cap space. And Stephon Gilmore is living in reality where the Patriots are no longer the New England Patriots. That's what I think is the most shocking thing of all, is Bill Belichick cannot see where the state of the Patriots is right now. He is not in those days anymore where he can let these type of guys go and nobody is going to care about it. This is a big deal that they are moving on from Stephon Gilmore because they are 1-3 and are seemingly going nowhere. Going back to this offseason, we were all like, oh look, Bill is changing. He spent all this money on Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Matthew Judon. He's a changed man. He knows that the Patriots are in a different state of mind. Well, seemingly he doesn't, because he goes to arguably his best defender and asks him to restructure his contract for Jamie Collins. That's why I don't have faith that the Patriots are going to right the ship, because I don't think that Bill Belichick sees the problem. He can no longer act like it's 2003. He can no longer act like it's 2004. He has to do things in a different way. That's why I have real doubts whether or not the Patriots are ever going to bounce back with Bill Belichick as their head coach, because he is stuck in the old ways. No one's talking about this, but every time something doesn't seem to go Bill's way, there doesn't seem to be a backup plan. Again, going back to the Tom Brady thing, I'm not that mad that Tom Brady left. I'm more angry that they didn't have a plan in case the greatest quarterback of all time left their organization. So Bill only really seems to know what to do when things are going his way. And when things don't go his way, that's when things go haywire. So it feels like Bill Belichick thought that Stephon Gilmore would restructure his deal and that he would have Stephon Gilmore, that he would get his cake and get to eat it too. That's the feeling that Bill Belichick is trying to get it all. He's trying to restructure the deals, and he's trying to bring in new players. He thinks he's always going to get his way, and when he doesn't get his way, he doesn't seem to have a backup plan. So what is the backup plan for the Patriots without Stephon Gilmore? Is it J.C. Jackson as our franchise corner? Well, guess what? The interesting thing about J.C. Jackson is he's going to be a restricted free agent this offseason. So is Bill Belichick going to give J.C. Jackson big time money? Is that the plan now? If so, fine, I'm all for it. If you think J.C. Jackson is a franchise corner. But do you know what I think is going to happen? And it's inevitable. He's going to have a contract dispute with J.C. Jackson. And the dance just keeps going round and round and round. The truth of the matter is, since 2001, everything has gone Bill's way. And now these last 2 years, things are not going his way. And I don't like the way that he is reacting to it. I question whether or not Bill Belichick can be the head coach of a team that is rebuilding in 2021. Do I think Bill Belichick is the greatest head coach of all time? And if I were a team that was on the cusp of winning, I would immediately hire Bill Belichick as my head coach. But for the rebuild, I now have serious doubts about Bill Belichick being a part of the Patriots' big rebuild. Going back to this idea that the timing of the Stephon Gilmore trade could not be worse. The Patriots were able to compete with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We were all feeling good about things. Mac Jones, some of us believe he's the franchise quarterback or whatever. And then what you do that week is you trade former defensive player of the year Stephon Gilmore when you are coaching a team that can't score more than 20 points a game. That's troubling. You need as many good defensive players as possible. And now all the news about their offensive linemen and how they might be out for a serious amount of time. I mean, things are not looking good for the Patriots. Things were starting to look good on Sunday, and now they're getting worse and worse by the day. And we all know what worst case scenario is, that Stephon Gilmore plays like the defensive player of the year for the Carolina Panthers. I mean, how many more times can we see a former Patriot balling out with another team? We already have Brady and Gronk in Tampa. We have Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco. We have Chandler Jones in Arizona. Nobody talks about Chandler Jones. And now we might have Stephon Gilmore with the Carolina Panthers. And none of these guys are putting up excellent numbers for the New England Patriots. They are doing it for other organizations, while the guys that are here are okay, but they're not playing at that elite level as these other guys. For Belichick's sakes, I hope the Patriots turn things around, because I don't think they could have a losing record. I hope they have a better record than the Carolina Panthers, and I hope Stephon Gilmore doesn't ball out for the Panthers, or Bill Belichick will again look horrible from moving on from a guy who could help his team win. Nobody's really pointing this out right now, but it also kind of feels like we could use Sony Michel on this team, because the running back group hasn't been good. And I know a lot of people will say that's because of the offensive linemen, but I like Sony Michel as a running back. I think the Patriots could use Sony Michel on this team, and I think this Patriots team could, of course, use Stephon Gilmore on this team. Overall, I think the Stephon Gilmore situation has been mishandled from the start. Stephon Gilmore had all the leverage. He didn't need to give the Patriots anything. They had no real power over him. The only way that they would have had power over him if they were a Super Bowl contending team. Then I think Stephon Gilmore would have come back. But he saw it. He saw that they weren't going to be an AFC East champion. He saw that they're not Super Bowl contenders. They are a middling National Football League team. That's the reality of the situation. And they are acting like they are still a part of the dynasty. Bill is acting like it is still a part of the dynasty. And I don't really like where things are headed. I mean, I felt good on Sunday because they were able to not get blown out by the Bucs. But think about that thought. I was happy that the Patriots were able to just stay in the game. I didn't even think about them winning the game. It never came to my thought that they were going to win that game. Things are changing. Times are changing, and Bill Belichick needs to change with them if the Patriots are ever going to return back to their former glory. And this was a massive, massive misstep. And there is no way you can turn that around and say this is an okay situation to trade a guy who was the defensive player of the year 2 years ago for a 6th-round pick. Especially because right now, at this moment, it feels like the Patriots are going to have to win games from the defensive end. Their running backs have not produced. Their receivers have had some good games. I think Kendrick Bourne has been their best free agent signing so far. Nobody's talking about that. The Patriots tight ends finally both went into the end zone last week. Maybe things are starting to looking up for that offense, but I think you still needed Stephon Gilmore if you were going to be legitimate contenders. Now that he's not on the team and he's not returning, I don't look at the Patriots as legitimate contenders. I look at them as a team that is rebuilding, and for a team that spent all that money in the offseason, for some people, including myself, that's unacceptable. I mean, I think they're going to win this weekend against the Texans, but I do feel like the Patriots are gonna become that team that only beats the bad teams and then ends up losing to the good ones. My last thought is everyone that thought the Patriots were going to be like a 12-win juggernaut this year looks insane, because they are far from that. Right now, they look like just another football team. Thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Monday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so please rate, review, and subscribe.